Hello, welcome back to the True Crime Dish. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. I normally would not make a video on a case this soon when the investigation is still ongoing, but I just cannot get this case out of my mind. I'm checking updates constantly, so I figured it would be good for people to have one place to go to get all of the information that we know so far. So I'm just going to be telling you the information that's out there. I compiled all of it. I even checked this morning to see if there were any updates. There hasn't been. So this is the most up-to-date information that I have up until the day that I'm filming this. There are a lot of rumors and a lot of theories out there. I am not going to touch on any of that because I think that just ends up convoluting the ongoing investigation, so we're not going to discuss any of that. I'm just going to tell you guys all of the details and the facts that the investigators have released to the public. A little before noon on November 13th, 2022, local police receive a phone call from a resident in Moscow, Idaho, needing help with a possible unconscious person in their home. The person who placed this call was referring to a roommate that lived in a 3-story off-campus home. Having no idea what they were about to uncover, police head out to the residence, and it was there that they discovered that 4 University of Idaho students had been brutally stabbed to death, seemingly while they slept. The victims were 20-year-old Zana Kernodle, her 20-year-old boyfriend Ethan Chapin, 21-year-old Kaylee Goncalves, and 21-year-old Madison Mogan. Zana, Kaylee, and Madison, or Maddie as she likes to be called, were all roommates living in the house, and Ethan had just been staying there with his girlfriend Zana. Maddie was a senior at University of Idaho, majoring in marketing. Her boyfriend said that she was just indescribable. She was an amazing and wonderful person who was excited to graduate and see more of the world, and Maddie's grandmother remembers her as being kind and caring and someone who held long-term friendships. Maddie and Kaylee had actually been friends since the 6th grade. Kaylee was from Idaho, but she was planning to move to Austin, Texas with a friend following her graduation in December. So she would have been graduating in just a few weeks. Kaylee had already secured a job there and was just so excited to see life outside of Idaho. One of Kaylee's friends said that Kaylee was always down for a new adventure. Ethan was from Washington State, and he was actually a triplet. Both of his brothers also attended University of Idaho. The three spent most of their day together on November 12th, attending a dance that was held by their sister's sorority. Ethan's mother said that he was always the life of the party. He was always smiling and joking. And she said that Ethan's brothers were very grateful to have had time well spent with Ethan the day before that he died. Zana grew up in Idaho but had spent several years in Arizona. Her father said that she was extremely strong-willed and that she was really enjoying her independence at the university. He said that she was always with her friends and he had no idea who could commit such a brutal crime. In addition to the victims, there were also 2 other girls living in the house. Basically, it was like there was 2 people sleeping on each floor because it's a 3-story house. So 2 girls were at the bottom, 2 people were in the middle, 2 people were on the top floor, and the victims were murdered on the 2nd and 3rd floor. The 2 girls on the ground floor were completely unharmed. Police suspect that they just slept through the attack. There was also a dog in the home who was unharmed. I saw in some sources that it was one of the surviving roommates that made the 911 call, but then I saw in some other sources that it was a friend of one of the surviving roommates that made the 911 call. So I'm unclear who actually placed the call, and police have not released the actual call or the transcript, so I'm not clear on who exactly made the call, but police have cleared the surviving roommates and the surviving roommates' friends from the suspect list. After news broke, many of the university's students left early ahead Thanksgiving break, and a lot of them didn't even return after Thanksgiving break. Police made a public statement saying that they didn't believe that the immediate community was in danger. They said they felt like these attacks were very targeted, although they would not give any details about why they thought these attacks were targeted. But a lot of people in the community are probably thinking, like me and you, that are like 4 young college students were murdered in their home while they slept, and you don't think that's a threat to the community? Like, I'm down here in Texas and I'm scared. 3 days later, the police actually recanted that statement and said that they have no idea who committed this crime and whether or not the perpetrator or perpetrators are still in the area, and they actually can't say whether this attack was targeted or not. No shit. So they suggested that the community stay on high alert, and they said that they are looking at this case from all angles. They are not ruling out that multiple people could have been involved in this attack, and they're just trying to keep an open mind about what could have happened that night. In the days following the murders, investigators were working very hard to create a timeline for where all the victims were the night before. Ethan and Zaina had been at one of Ethan's fraternity parties. Ethan was a member of Sigma Chi fraternity, and so they were out of the Sigma Chi fraternity house until about 1:45 a.m. before they came home. At this time, not much is known about where the couple was right before the party. A lot is not known about who they interacted with at the party. We just know that they were at the party and got home around 1:45 a.m. Around 11 p.m. on November 12th, Kaylee and Maddie went to the Corner Club bar where they stayed until about 1:30 a.m. Roughly 10 minutes later, they can be seen on surveillance footage getting food at a late night food truck, and they can also be seen, talking to other customers while they were waiting on their food. After that, they headed back home where they got back to the house around 1:56 a.m. They can be seen entering the home from neighbor surveillance footage at 1:56 a.m. Between 2:26 a.m. and 2:56 a.m., there were 7 unanswered phone calls that Kaylee had placed to her ex-boyfriend Jack. And there were several unanswered phone calls to Jack on Maddie's phone as well. So they were both clearly trying to get a hold of him. I don't find this unusual at all because, we all know what it's like when you are in college, you've been out all night, and you get home and you just want to talk to that one specific person. And these are the last known accounts of the victims before that 911 call on November 13th. Working with this information, the investigators start to question people. They start with the surviving roommates and they rule them out pretty quickly. They also get in contact with Kaylee's ex-boyfriend Jack, and they rule him out pretty quickly too. Kaylee's family came forward and said that they are 100% behind Jack. They do not think that he could have had anything to do with this. He said that he was already asleep at the time, and so that's why he didn't answer any of Kaylee or Maddie's phone calls. It was like 2:33 in the morning, so a lot of people are asleep at that time. Police have also ruled out whoever Kaylee and Maddie were seen talking to at the food truck, and they also ruled out the driver that drove them home. The county coroner concluded that the murders likely took place between 3 and 4 a.m. She said that it appeared to her that most of the victims were stabbed while they slept, and that some of them may have tried to fight back. This was an absolutely brutal attack. There is one photo that I saw that is just haunting. There's literally blood seeping out of the side of the home. This was very intense. Coroner also noted that all the victims had been stabbed multiple times. It looked like the murder weapon was a very large knife. Police have reached out to some of the local shops in the area to confirm if there were any knife sales in the days leading up to the murders. The coroner also noticed that none of the victims were sexually assaulted, and I also have not seen any mention of robbery, so the motive here is very unclear. There is a regular door on one side of the home, and then on the other side of the home there are 2 separate sliding glass doors. So there's potentially 3 entrances to this home. Police are not sure where or how the perpetrator or perpetrators entered the home. As of right now, we don't have any known suspects or leads, at least as far as the public knows. A couple days ago, police made a statement saying that they are looking for a 2011 to 2013 white Hyundai Elantra that was seen in the area at the time of the murders. They were very clear that the owner of the vehicle is not a suspect, more like a person of interest. They just want to talk to them because they think that they'll have some very important information regarding the case. Investigators are also looking into a potential stalker that Kaylee may have had. Apparently, she had mentioned to some friends and family that she had a man stalking her, which is very terrifying in and of itself, and unfortunately, stalking is not taken as seriously as it should be. Police are not quite ruling that theory out just yet. A neighbor came forward and said that they noticed the door to the girl's home being wide open around 8 a.m. on November 13th. The police chief could not confirm or deny whether this was true. He said that he was not made aware that that door was wide open if it was, so he can't really corroborate that, and I guess they can't really factor it into their investigation because he wasn't made aware. No one really knows if that's true, but the neighbor did say that they saw it wide open at 8 a.m. on November 13th. Another neighbor came forward very recently and said that he actually heard a scream in the early morning hours of November 13th. He apparently is a local chef in the area, and he got home around 1:30 a.m., didn't fall asleep until around 4 a.m., and he said that he heard a scream kind of in between that time. He said that the house that the girls lived in was usually buzzing with small parties, friends going in and out, so he didn't really think a lot of it at the time, despite him noticing that the house was pretty quiet that evening. I believe he said that it looked like there was not a lot of activity going on that night. There was also some media buzz about some police body cam footage being released around the same time that the murders took place, but this was deemed completely irrelevant. Police had responded to an alcohol incident that was near the girls' home, but like I said, they deemed this completely unrelated to the crime. And that is pretty much all of the information we have up until the day that I'm filming this. Police are urging anyone with any information to come forward, saying no information is too small to share. If you know anything at all, even if you think that it's not important, if you happen to be watching this and you know something, I've left a tip line phone number as well as an email address down below. If you know anything, please reach out to them. Investigators just keep reiterating that they are very motivated to solve this case, and they are extremely adamant that they are not going to let this case go cold. I think the best thing we can do as the public is just to continue to talk about this story, continue to talk about the victims. Obviously be very mindful of what you're saying and what you're talking about, but I think continuing to talk about this case and keeping it in the public eye is the least we can do for these victims. I just look at their pictures and I'm so incredibly heartbroken because their adult lives were just getting started. Kaylee and Maddie were starting to make plans for after their graduation, and Ethan and Zaina had just started dating back in the spring, and they just all should have had so much more time. It's not fair that their families are not going to get to see who they're going to end up being after college. They're not going to get to see what Zaina, Ethan, Maddie, and Kaylee would have done with their lives. I just really hope that we can get this solved soon and quickly and get the absolute piece of shit who did this in jail. The Sigma Chi fraternity has also set up a scholarship fund in Ethan Chapin's name, so I'll leave a link to that down below as well if you feel like you can donate, if you want to donate. I'll have that linked down below for anyone that's interested, and I hope we continue to see good things like that in the name of these victims, because they most certainly will not be forgotten. That is it, you guys. That is everything we know up to date. Like I said, this is a little different than what I would normally do, but it's just been so heavy on my mind that I felt like I needed to talk about it. Maybe one day when we have this crime solved and we have more answers, I can revisit it, but for now that's where we're at with the case. On a lighter note, I made these. They're very delicious, super easy for like an appetizer Christmas morning situation, so I will, as usual, have the recipe for this linked down below. And aside from that, I will see you all very soon in a new true crime dish. Bye guys.